Welcome in to the Saturday edition of the Fun Astrology Podcast, a special financial episode where we read the free weekly newsletter written by Ray Merriman that's published every week on Friday night at MMAcycles.com. Of course, we have an abbreviated market week this week due to the Good Friday holiday, so let's dig in and see what Ray has for us this week. First of all, a couple of news stories from the Wall Street Journal on Friday. A key measure of U.S. inflation rose as expected in February, putting a spotlight on whether price growth will be cool enough this spring to justify an interest rate cut by mid-year. It's good to see something coming in line with expectations, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said on Friday. Fed officials last week reaffirmed their projections for 3 interest rate cuts this year, though the timing of such cuts remains uncertain. This next article is from the Wall Street editorial board on Wednesday, all aboard the foreign exchange seesaw. Excitable market analysts talk as if the main risk to the global economy are when and how much central banks will raise interest rates. A different danger came into view in Japan on Wednesday as the yen plunged to another multi-decade low against the dollar. The yen briefly sank to 151.97 per dollar. That's the lowest value in 34 years. Now Ray's commentary. He says financial markets continued to follow the robust and bullish Jupiter-Uranus path higher, as outlined in the Forecast 2024 book and audiobook. New all-time highs were recorded on Thursday, March 28th, in the stock indices of Australia, the ASX, Netherlands, the AEX, and Germany, the DAX. After an early week slide, rallies approached all-time highs with secondary tops in Switzerland, the SMI, Japan, the Nikkei, the Nifty in India, and in the U.S. for the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500. London's FTSE Index also had a strong week and is testing its all-time high of February 2023. The big star last week was probably gold, which soared to another new all-time high on Thursday, March 28th, the last trading day of the holiday week. Silver also had a nice rally but fell short of its recent high for this year, which was on March 21st. The pattern was similar in Bitcoin, which made its new all-time high on March 14th at 73,803. It then fell 17% to a low of 60,760 on March 20th of the prior week. But then it started another rally that so far has soared to a secondary high of 71,754 on March 27th. Crude oil also enjoyed a healthy rally last week, rising to $83.21 a barrel on March 28th, its highest level since November 3rd. Each of these markets, stocks, precious metals, cryptocurrencies, and crude oil, are still in the running for further gains going into the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, April 20th and 21st. However, with Mercury retrogrades starting up on Monday, April 1st, the path may not be a straight line. Now, the short-term geocosmics. Here's another Wall Street Journal article from Friday. This one is entitled, Gold is Rallying, but It's Not About Inflation This Time. When confidence in society and political institutions erodes, the appeal of gold and other precious metal commodities like diamonds rises as alternative stores of value that are not contingent on societal arrangements. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies hold a similar appeal, but they are far less tested, less understood, and still subject to big regulatory risks. UBS pointed to rising gold purchases by central banks worldwide, which they said have reached the highest levels since the 1960s, at more than 1,000 metric tons in each of the past 2 years. These bets by central banks could be seen as hedges against the dollar as a reserve currency. Here's an article from thehill.com on March 29th. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said Friday there is no reason to think the U.S. economy is close to a recession. Growth is strong, Powell said at a conference in San Francisco. As I mentioned, the economy is in a good place. There is no reason to think the economy is in a recession or is at the edge of one, he said. End quote. Now Ray's commentary. Well, actually there is one reason to think the U.S. economy may be nearing a recession. We're in the middle of a powerful eclipse period. which means the sun and moon will conjoin the north or south node of the moon. In fact, the solar eclipse on April 8th will conjoin the sun, moon, lunar north node, and Chiron. It's Chiron and the lunar north node that concern us. In the 11 cases in which Chiron and the lunar north node have conjoined since the Civil War, 7 have coincided with recessions within 10 months. The previous time this conjunction occurred was on July 27, 2008, right in the middle of the Great Recession of December 2007 through June 2009. The good news is that in most of these recessions, the Chiron lunar north node conjunction happened during the recession, not before or after. In current times, this conjunction occurred on March 5, 2024, and so far there has been no recession. However, there are at least 2 cases where the conjunction occurred outside of the recession by up to 10 months, so there is still a reason to be concerned. In the short term, the trickster Mercury retrograde is about to start its version of March Madness on April Fool's Day, going retrograde from April 1st through the 26th. The Mad Hatter, also a trickster, would like this correspondence. Given the erratic and unpredictable nature of financial markets under the trickster's cycle, which also commences right in the middle of the lunar, March 25th, and solar, April 8th, eclipses. So anything is in play. Sometimes markets peak right into the Mercury retrograde date, plus or minus 4 trading days, and then sells off. If not, then they continue their trends until the midpoint of the retrograde cycle, which will be on April 14th, a Sunday, plus or minus 1 trading day. Of special importance may be April 10th, 2 days after the solar eclipse in Aries, when the powerful Mars-Saturn conjunction takes place. Mars rules Aries, so it may be a time of inclement weather affecting grain and all food prices, and or more saber-rattling in the warmongering regions of Russia and the Middle East. I know many Putin sympathizers think he is justified in his aggressions, given that nations on the border of Russia wish to join NATO, which he sees as a threat and a violation of past agreements following Glasnost. However, NATO is not out to engage in war. It is a defensive alliance against military aggression and expansion toward its members, not a warmongering alliance to attack Russia or anyone else. Trying to turn the narrative around to justify the violence, destruction, and kidnapping of children in Ukraine and hostages in the U.S. and elsewhere is an example of the potential distortion of the truth, propaganda, symbolized by Saturn, facts, in Pisces, misdirection, deception, blame. These 2 principles operate much more constructively on a transparent and truthful level, whereby virtue and peace are held in high value. This trend of authoritarian rulers, Saturn, to mislead, Neptune in Pisces, may continue to build into 2026, plus or minus 1 year, when Saturn conjoins Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, on February 20th, 2026. And it's not only Russia and the Middle East where this trend toward more propaganda under the illusion of supposedly caring for one's citizens is taking place. In spite of all these attempts by some world leaders to create a narrative that evades the truth and ignores the will of the people, many financial markets may continue to rally into the trio of Jupiter aspects on the horizon. These include the most powerful aspect of the year, Jupiter conjoining Uranus on April 20th or 21st, depending on where you live, followed by Jupiter sextiling Neptune and trining Pluto on May 23rd to June 2nd. However, after this season of financial and economic optimism and political appeasement, the mood may change as Jupiter enters a triple passage of a square aspect to Saturn August 19th, 2024 through June 15th, 2025. What once seemed to be a never-ending gravy train of profits, economic growth, and security may start to morph into signs that the patchwork of misdirection and false narratives is unraveling. And that is a great analysis and a lot to ponder over this long weekend as we get ready for Easter Sunday and then a full trading day beginning with Mercury retrograde on Monday. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you. Level up for the Fun Astrology folks on Sunday night and then back here again on Monday for the full week of podcasts to follow the action in the sky or the bundle. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening.